It's true, bamboo bedding is dreamy to sleep on. That's why Quince aptly named their Bamboo Dream Quilt Set. Coming in 12 colors, you're absolutely going to love this quilt and 2 shams set. Starting at the softest of pinks and going all the way to a dark navy. It's going to be perfect for anyone's room. Your own, your guest rooms, your kids' rooms, maybe even back to the dorm bedding. Quince has everything you need to elevate your space, from bedding to soft organic towels, airy curtains, and premium kitchen tools designed for everyday use. And of course, as you know, Quince has gorgeous cashmere and other wardrobe essentials. And the best part, Quince's products are half the cost of similar brands. They partner with top artisans and cut out the cost of the middleman, passing the savings on to us. Thank you, Quince. And they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, so you can feel good about your purchases from Quince. Elevate your space with home essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/DTT for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/DTT to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/DTT. Anita and I are taking a little break to enjoy family, friends, and travel. And we hope you're doing the same. And that you'll take us with you on your trip to the beach, in the garden, or just chilling with a cool drink. We'll be back soon. Until then, remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Let's get started with today's episode. Pull up a chair. This is going to be really good.
This is Anita Joyce here with Kelly Wilkness, and this is Decorating Tips and Tricks. And today's episode is Decorate Like a Pro, Dining Room Edition.
So today, as we told you, Anita and I would love you to pull up a chair and join us in the dining room.
The first thing that you're going to think about is, how are you going to use this room? Are you doing double duty? Is this also a home office? Are the kids doing their schoolwork there? And I really think that's the first place to start before you even think about the design. What's going to be going on in this room? Because, I know a lot of people that they have, visions of sugar plums in their head. They're going to, do these elegant dinner parties, but, the reality is just the dog bowls in there and the kids doing the homework. So
it's good to dream.
Yes, well, it's nice to dream, but then you want to make sure it's not too fancy, and then, the dog is getting stuff all over your silk curtains and, so forth and so on. So that really is the first thing to think about, is how are you going to use the room? And you can still kind of upgrade a little bit, but you have to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. And I have an idea later on how to really make the room spectacular, not only for dining, but also for a multi-purpose room. So before we get into the fantastic and the fabulous, let's just get through some of the dimensions that are good to keep in mind with regard to a dining room, because unlike family rooms, some rooms that can be a little bit more casual, it's pretty important to get your dimensions correct in the dining room. You don't want the table too high for people like me who are only 5'3" and a half or 3/4, depending on the day. And you don't want to have the chair seat too high or too low. You don't want to feel like Goldilocks when they come into your dining room. And you want to get the lighting right. And a lot of that has to do with how high the chandelier is or the light fixture is off your table.
While you're talking about that, keep in mind too, if you have an antique table, and sometimes it's not even an antique table, but if you have that apron under your table, then I think you need to have enough room for someone to cross their legs under the table. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I think you're so right. And that might not be something that someone even considers, particularly if you're buying it online. You might not even get to see an image of that part of the table. Mm-hmm. So you might be surprised. And Anita, since you're our defining lady, let everybody know what the apron is in case they don't know what we're talking about.
Well, that's that little piece underneath the table that if the table's too low, that's what your knees knock into.
Right. So sometimes it's purely decorative. Other times maybe it's something that's actually helping to support the table. But, if it's there, you can't take it off. It's not a removable thing.
So you just kind of need to keep in mind, if it's a new table, if it's not an antique, it's probably going to be fine. But some of these older tables, there is a problem. I mean, one of the things you can do is put maybe the casters on it to lift it up and see if you can lock them in place. Or if they're on a rug, then that'll probably keep it in place so it's not moving around. But that's one thing. And I actually have an antique table. I have the same problem on my porch, and I actually cut some pieces of wood that kind of are the same color as the table and snuck them under the feet. And it's really hard to even notice that they're there. But it made a big difference.
I love that fix, the casters or the extra pieces of wood. And I'm thinking too, as you were saying that, you could buy little bun feet and things like that, so maybe something that might go with the leg of your table, or something that, if your table's simple, maybe you went out a little something. If you need that, I think that's a great solution. So let me just run through some of these various dimensions that you might want to keep in mind. So generally a table is somewhere between 28 and 30 inches tall. So that's from the floor to the top of the table. Usually I'm thinking it's closer to 30 than 28, but again, it could be a vintage or an antique table. And then your chair seat, to be commensurate with that normal size table, should be somewhere in the range of 17 to 19. And really the sweet spot there is 18. So that would be from the bottom of the leg to the top of the seat. It may vary a little bit if you have an upholstered chair. So when you're measuring it, and then when someone actually sits on it, might squish a little bit. So there's a little bit of play there, but you don't want someone to feel like they're a kid at the grown-up table. That it's just, that's how I feel on my outdoor table, which there's so little solution for, but we'll figure that out on another day. Then the chandelier, or the lovely light fixture you may have, or you should have, over your table, 30 to 36 inches off the top of the table, depending on the ceiling height. So generally, if you've got an 8-foot ceiling, 30 inches off. And if you've got, say, a 10-foot ceiling, 36 inches off. So you're going to increase it by 3 inches for every foot that your ceiling increases. So you got to do a little math there.
Right,
so,
but if it's a cathedral type ceiling,
then it's
then you can go higher than the 36.
Yes,
so
definitely.
And rather than so many feet for the height of the ceiling, I mean, I would just kind of back up and just kind of see what looks good at that point.
Yes. If you've got an extremely high ceiling, I would do it by eyeball and how it feels. You do it, have someone sit at the table, stand back, look at it. But these are just general dimensions, just to keep in mind.
While you're talking about that, that's another thing to think about, because a lot of times the light fixture's in the center of the dining room, but if you put a buffet or a china cabinet or something against the wall, then your table is not going to be centered under the light fixture anymore, which kind of drives me nuts.
I'm starting to twitch.
I don't like that either. So I actually had them offset mine when we had the house built, because I knew that was going to bother me. But if you're stuck with it, you can always do a long chain, if it's on a chain, and swag it over, a foot or whatever you need to.
You're just full of good solutions today.
I try.
You really are. So now I'm sure we'll talk about rug as a design element later on, but here we're talking about the rugs with respect to the size. So say you have, and again, these are general, depending on the size of the shape of your rug and things like that. It may vary, mileage may vary, but this is just general. So the table for 8, usually a 9 by 12 will work. Table for 6, 8 by 10. Table for 4, you could do it 8 by 10 or 6 by 9, or you could do a round if you've got a round table for 4. So an 8-foot round would be appropriate. Really what you're going for is 4 feet longer and wider than your table, because you want to be able to have the chairs not only sit close to the table, but you want people to be able to slide the chair out, get in and out. They don't want to, they can't vaporize to get into the seat. So then you need about 18 to 24 inches for the chairs to slide in and out comfortably and yet stay on the rug, because you really don't want 2 legs on and 2 legs off. That's uncomfortable.
Or when you pull the chair out, it's not on the rug anymore. That's an awkward look.
Yes. So those are my dimensions, and if you need to re-listen to copy those down, go right ahead. But maybe we'll even stick those in the show notes if we get to have a little time for that.
Not making any promises on that, but no, that's a good idea.
You know who does the show notes, right, everybody? It's not me.
Yes, that's true. So the other thing, so once you've kind of kept these dimensions in mind, you've thought about how you're using the room, I think the next step is to put that Pinterest board together. Start looking online on Pinterest and look at some dining rooms and see which ones really appeal to you, because there's so many different looks you can have. You can have a neutral look, you can have bold color, pastels, you can have lots of pattern, contemporary, boho. There's just so many different looks, and it really is good to have some inspiration photos so you kind of know the direction you're going. You don't want to be schizophrenic in your approach. So I think you kind of want to have a cohesive feel, just a really well-defined idea of kind of the overall look you're going for. Now, it may be that you kind of saw a table that you really like, and you're just not going to be able to get that table, or your table doesn't look like that. That's okay, but it's just kind of your goal, or just something to kind of look for when you're out looking for things. So I think it's really there's a lot of value in doing that Pinterest board, because it does kind of help you narrow down and say, okay, this is what I want my room to kind of look like in general.
Yes. Oh, and always such fun to do that. I want to talk about the furniture that I would like to see in a dining room, if possible. It may be a smaller room. You might not have room for everything, and that's okay. These are just things to keep in mind when you're designing your dining room and you're deciding what to put in there. Obviously, a table and chairs, but you want to maybe break up the set, either different chairs, they don't all have to match, or the chairs are different from the table. A rug. I love to see a mirror in a dining room, and then something for serving, a horizontal surface. You could have a china cabinet, and gosh, we've talked in the past about different ways to really jazz up a china cabinet. That could be fun, to really work on and make it a very unique piece. Or maybe you have something that is older and you inherited it, or you just love it and you can fill it with beautiful things. If you've got the room for it, obviously the perfect place to put it. But you know what? Use the stuff that's in it. And we can talk about that too. But let's talk about the table for a second.
Well, I wanted to back up while you're still talking about
Sure.
the furniture in general.
Yeah.
And because I see this happen. Sometimes people end up sometimes I think the room feels a little bare to them. So they start, what do? They start filling up the corners with chairs and furniture, right, and a little table here and a little tray there and a little something here. And that is not going to be the look you're going to want to have. I think if you're...
You're so kind the way you put that. Maybe not. Maybe not the look you want. No,
you do not want this room overloaded with furniture. That's not you. You really want the focus on the table, on a buffet or something behind it, and whatever is above that piece back there, and then maybe your light fixture, the table and chairs. That's really what you want mainly in that room. So, you can, if it's a big room, you can maybe sneak in a little something extra, but I would be very careful about overloading the room with furniture. And while I'm saying that, I think people get into trouble wanting to add all this stuff because the room looks bare. Why does the room look bare? Because the table is probably too small. So that's really something to think about, and make sure that your table is sized for your room, because that, I think, is really the root of the problem.
Wow. Getting to it. Okay, I agree. And that room being the dining room, yes, people tend to put stuff in there because it feels that like it's bare. You're absolutely right. Because if you just have a table and some chairs and maybe one other piece of furniture, like, I don't know about this. But we're going to talk about design elements later on in the episode that are going to wow the space, make it feel super full, and make it feel interesting. So, you just got wood on wood with a little more wood and then maybe some plates. It's just not going to feel like it's enough. But I agree with Anita. Just don't keep willy-nilly adding other pieces of furniture or just like random extra stuff. Something that happens too is like if you have a table with leaves and you're using maybe the chairs that came with it, you've got a whole lot of chairs that you're not using on a regular basis. And so then they become timeout chairs against the wall, which, can kind of look interesting.
I've seen that look good. That's not always bad.
It's not always bad, but, if you're going to have chairs just against the wall, they should be little kind of interesting, like Frenchies or little accent chairs that are not part of the set. I don't love the part of the set being a timeout chair. I don't
really.
Love that.
If you've got a buffet there, I can see having an extra chair on either side. If you have the extra chairs, you don't know where to put them. I'm fine with that look. But again, it really kind of depends. I mean, if it looks overcrowded, then no.
Yeah. Also because there's just so much hard surface in a dining room generally. It's mostly wood, or maybe you have a more modern table, it might be metal or cement or something. Like, you're still dealing with a lot of hard surfaces, and then you're keeping other chairs that are maybe wood, and it just seems like a lot of hard surface. So I'd rather take those out and break it up, or maybe change those chairs and make those chairs something else. But I'm getting a little into the weeds on that. Let me back up and talk about the table. Now, you just said, which I think is a great point, that the table may be too small for the space. So that's why people are feeling like, wow, this is kind of floating around in here. While I agree with you, and again, it's general because we don't know what size your dining room is, and we don't know what size table you have. But on the flip side of that is that you don't have to have a gigantic table with all the leaves in it if your room can't handle it. So I think it plays both ways. There are two sides to that coin, right?
I think it should be sized appropriately.
Right.
And if it's a table that has my old dining room table with the leaves in, stretched out to 12 feet. Mm. I mean, that just looks weird. I mean, most of the time. So
right.
I wouldn't do that.
Right.
Yeah. So you're right. I mean, you don't want it too big and you don't want it too small for your space. I think it needs to work.
You want it just right. Didn't I mention Goldilocks already today? Hey, we'll be right back with the rest of the show, but keep listening so we can continue bringing you DTT. So have you tried Dupe yet? If you haven't, come on, dupe.com. It is going to be your new shopping best friend. And it's not just for furniture. I know I've shared with you about my coffee table dupe, but you can save money with Dupe on fashion, shoes, jewelry, and more. I just used Dupe to find an absolute perfect twin of this t-shirt that I wanted. It was an $80 t-shirt. I was not going to pay $80 for a t-shirt. Dupe helped me find the twin, like maybe the exact same shirt. Find something you love, and then you can find replicas, twins, and maybe the exact thing for so much less. Give Dupe a try today. It is really so easy to use. You just type dupe.com / before any product URL in your browser, and voila! It instantly finds you less expensive alternatives. They even have an app and a browser extension you can download. No account is required. No sign up is required. It is completely free. I know, can you believe it? But it is completely free to use. Stop wasting money on brand names and start saving with dupe.com today. I've always got my eye out, or should I say ear out, for a new podcast. And I heard of one that I think you're going to love. The Lisa Show podcast. The Lisa Show is a self-help, life health, and inspiration chat show. It's hosted by comedian, actress, writer, mother, and solo parent of 5, Lisa Valentine Clark. The podcast offers a mix of humor, life insights, and motivational topics. Recent episodes cover topics such as caregiving, how to be more creative, starting over after a big life change, and healthy body image. During COVID, Lisa lost her husband to ALS, and friends saved her life. And so a goal of the Lisa Show is to provide that same support to others who need it. And really, don't we all need a community to hold us up when our challenges come? Because life is challenging. And the Lisa Show connects listeners with real people and real good ideas for facing all of life's challenges. Find the Lisa Show wherever you get your podcasts.
The next thing, once we're talking about the table, let's talk about what's going on the wall behind the table, because that's probably going to be your focal point, is whatever is above, on the wall, above the table when you look straight into the dining room. And that could be a mirror or artwork. And, a mirror is traditional. It's great for reflecting the light. And I think it's a wonderful element to have in your room. But if you don't want a mirror, I think this is a great place to choose some really bold, beautiful artwork. I think the key with a mirror or artwork is you cannot go too small. And just like we talked about, you don't want a lot of little furniture in the dining room. You don't want a lot of little pieces of art on the walls. I think you're going to want one big piece or a set of prints that go together above that buffet, and maybe a few other pieces in the room, but you do not want stuff just plastered all over the walls. For some looks you can do it, but for most dining rooms, I think that's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of having a gallery wall or just a lot of different things on the wall in the dining room. I think it should be one large piece or a mirror. I 100% agree with that. It just seems too busy to have that. You want it to be a calming space and a place where you're going to enjoy food and conversation. So I don't wouldn't want a whole lot of distraction, but I would want something that was kind of interesting. So if it's a mirror, I always think a mirror is a great choice, but make it an interesting mirror and make it super large, which in and of itself will make it interesting. Something you can do if you can't find a mirror that is big enough for your dining room is you can just have a piece of mirror cut from a glass shop. There are probably little glass shops, mom and pop glass shops in every town or the town over from you. Have them come out, measure, they can affix it right to the wall. And then if you're handy or someone you know is handy, you can have them come over and just create some molding to trim it out. So you're in effect making your own mirror to the exact size that you need. I did that in my prior house in San Marino, and it was great. It completely changed the room. I had two narrow windows on either side. I had a very low buffet, and it was not a wide room. It wasn't even really that long, but it was definitely more rectangular than in shape. So I had a long table, not a lot of space for a lot of other things. The mirror completely transformed the room. You could see everything. And my dining room was across the hallway entryway, and then across from it was the living room. So you could actually see the living room reflected in the mirror. And that was nice any time of year, but particularly at Christmas when we were sitting there to eat, you could see the Christmas tree in the mirror. So it just did so much for that room. I highly recommend that. And it's really not that expensive to have it cut exactly to the size you want.
So I'm curious to know, how wide was this mirror?
How wide was this mirror? Well, gosh, I don't really remember off the top of my head, but it had to have been 7 feet.
Oh, wow. Okay. This really was much larger than you would be able to find in the store.
Yeah, it ran the whole length, just a little shy of this long buffet, which I don't, calling it a buffet is not right. It was like a low dresser that I got at a consignment store.
So this dresser must have been much smaller than the mirror.
It was lower and no, super long, super long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think it was something that someone probably would have had in an office, because it felt like the drawers were kind of almost like ones you would have files in. It could have been like for a lawyer's office or something.
Oh, okay.
It was super long.
You must have left that piece of furniture there or sold it.
I did leave it there with the mirror because they loved it.
Oh, there you go.
That was something that I did to great effect in that dining room because it just wasn't that interesting of a room. And there was a big arched entryway. There just wasn't a lot of room for art. And so this did so much to the room. So if you've got a dining room like that, where it's really not closed off to itself, and maybe you wouldn't want to be seeing a necessarily piece of art when you're looking through, the mirror is great because it reflects the light while you're in it. And then it's bringing the different elements of your house, into the dining room.
I think that's a wonderful idea. And while we're talking about the walls and putting art or a mirror on there, I wanted to talk about something you can do in this room, because this is a kind of in general, kind of a closed space. Usually it's not an open concept dining room. So, this is a room where you could put some wallpaper, put a real bold color on the walls, or even do just like we talked about, maybe just that main wall with the wallpaper. I think that would be fine. But this is really, we talked about the trends recently and how wallpaper is in, color is in. So this is a great place to put that, is in your dining room, because there's usually not a lot of other pattern and fabric in there. So it's a great place to do that if you're wanting to add some pattern and some beautiful wallpaper.
There's so many fun things that you can do in a dining room because it's a special room. Most of the time. I know people have been working in there and doing things like that lately, but it is a room where you celebrate occasions. It's a room that maybe it's not something you use every single day, but we encourage you to use it as much as possible. But you can kind of amp it up, right? You can turn the dial up a little bit. It can be a little bit more dramatic. So think about how that might work in your whole house and with the flow of your whole house. And if your house can take it, or if you're interested in trying something new, try it in the dining room. I think it's a perfect place. How about a mural? There are such beautiful murals. I don't know if you've seen those murals they're hand painted, but on paper. I can't remember the name of the company, but if I find it, I remember it. We'll put that in the show notes. Super high end, super expensive, but that can be an inspiration for finding something else, whether it's a wallpaper or whether it is there are adhesive murals that are removable. That could be so cool. So you could do that on the wall as art, and then maybe put a mirror on top of that, depending on what the design was like. I'm not a giant fan of the treating the wall in the dining room as like a half wall, because a lot of times, particularly maybe, I don't know, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, the chair rail with the paint on the bottom or something on the bottom and then something different on the top. I'm not a giant fan of that. I'd kind of like to see the whole wall done, whether it's a painting it a special color, or whether you're doing some special wallpaper, or, as I'm saying, a mural maybe on one wall. So if you have a chair rail, you think about that. I don't like splitting anything. Maybe it's because I'm short. Like, I like to wear one color, because I look taller.
No, I'm short-waisted. I have the same problem. But wainscoting, I mean, that's what I have. I really like that. It's not just the chair rail or the dado rail.
Right. There you go.
Yeah, but it's the whole.
And then what do you have above it?
I just painted wall,
Right. And is it painted the same color?
No, but it's a slight difference.
Right, but it's a slight difference. Yeah,
No,
it's
no,
not
it's
like
not
you have persimmon on the bottom and some kind of wallpaper on the top.
It's a very subtle difference. Right. So it kind of has that look of being pretty similar. But what I was going to say is I got some wonderful wallpaper from Pasted Paper.
Oh, you did get it? Which design did you get?
Well, a couple of them. I'm going to have to go look and see which ones I got. But one of them was we got for Evie was the one that has the black background with the the flowers on it.
I love that one. I'm thinking about doing the barn bathroom in that one.
Well, it's gorgeous. So I have the paper. We haven't had a time to sit together and kind of decide what all we were doing. I actually have some hat boxes, or some other boxes too, that I'm going to use some of the paper to put on it. Mm-hmm. Some of the William Morris one that's got the green leaves on it.
Love it.
Right. But but for Evie, I think we decided we're going to take the wallpaper and frame it. And then put 3 pieces on the wall. But that's what you could do. And, you've done the framed wallpaper in your house. So that is something you can do, too, especially if you did a big panel of it. You could wallpaper a big, piece of wood or, foam core or something, and then just put a little frame around it. And that would be beautiful in there. And I also
That's a great idea. I did do that. I forgot about that. I have those giant long panels. They're at least 6 feet long, the ones that I did.
Exactly. So you could do that. And I also found a piece of artwork that I think would be so beautiful and peaceful, and you'll have to look at it. I'll link to it in the show notes. But I found some artwork that I think would just be so beautiful in a dining room. It's restful, it's interesting, and I think it would go with just about any style in there.
Oh, you're teasing us. We all have to go look. Mix your materials in your dining room, too. As I was saying before, there's oftentimes, generalization, but lots of wood. Wood floor, wood table, wood chairs. Mix it up. Maybe put in some upholstered chairs at either end, or metal chairs, or a bench made of some other material. It's okay to mix metals. It's great. Big thumbs up on mixing metals anywhere. So definitely you can do that in your dining room to add some more interest. Here's what I was saying earlier when I alluded to having an idea about making it more of a multi-purpose room. But I think even if you only use this for dining and you did this, I think you're going to like this, Anita. We've talked about this before, is lining the walls, or at least one wall, with bookcases, and just making the bookcases really beautiful, styling them really well. Yes, that's what I was talking
about with the Billies that were that have the glass doors.
Love it. I checked those out.
They're sold out now. So I'm not going to be able to do
Thanks a lot, Anita.
Yeah,
you could have told me that on the side.
Well, I knew better than to mention them before I bought mine.
Oh, so you did you get them?
No, I didn't get them. They're gone.
Oh, you didn't get them yet? Oh, no.
I know. Well, that's fine.
Well, but look what you do for everyone. Just share.
I do. It's just all about the love for the people. Yeah, but that is a great look, and you just keep your eyes open because, IKEA's going to get them back in eventually, and they'll be great. And those were super inexpensive, so you could definitely use those. But they have some other ones too. But I think that was really the best deal. And I liked it. The shelves go all the way to the floor.
What a great thing to do. And really in keeping with what we talked about in the recent trends episode, where there was that predominant theme of the English country vibe throughout so many of the trends. And wouldn't that just be the coziest English country cottagey thing? Or you could even think it like a little bit more formal in a sense, depending on what type of books and what other things you had on the bookshelves. But I think bookshelves in a dining room is just dynamite.
I do too. And while we're talking about that, let's talk a little bit about whatever this piece of furniture is going to be against that back wall behind the dining room table, because the traditional thing is a china cabinet, which most people are not doing anymore. It's not really on trend. Not if you have it and you love it, keep it. Not saying it's wrong, but it's not really so much on trend. But the thing I think to keep in mind, I mean, personally, I prefer kind of a buffet in general. So then you've got the serving surface, you've got a place to put two lamps, two buffet lamps, and then you can use it for serving or some big display of whatever you want. So that's why I prefer that. But the other thing I like about the buffet is it tends to be longer, and I like something about the length of the table back there. I feel like it feels a little more balanced if you do that, because if what you're putting back there is a skinny little narrow something, I think that's another one of those things that makes the room feel off. I think you want something closer to the width of the table.
Yes, and probably something that has some cabinets in front or it's solid somehow, rather than just something like a console table. That's how I kind of feel. And that's useful too, because then you could put maybe the serving pieces that you don't use all the time, or a china.
Storage is great. Yeah.
An extra china set that you may or may not have. I don't know who has all of that laying around.
Oh. It's everywhere.
Guilty
in my
as
house.
charged, both of us. And then something beautiful on your table at all times. It does not have to be fussy and fabulous, and you don't have to have fresh flowers delivered on a weekly basis, but just something on there to soften it up. And you can leave it on there for a while. You could leave it on there for, the whole summer if you had a summery type of theme, or you don't want to be walking in there in maybe April and you still have Christmassy stuff, obviously. But if you had something that you could easily put together that looked great, and that was maybe your backup, your fill-in between the seasons, I think that's a great thing to have. Maybe you store it in the bottom of that break front or what have you, the extra piece of furniture you have in there, and just take it out, whether it's a runner and a couple of candlesticks, or just a lantern, maybe something with some height, maybe something in threes, or maybe a bunch of candlesticks grouped together on a tray. Something that's easy to do, but always looks nice. It's going to add a lot of texture and interest to the room, and it's just lovely. And you could light the candles. You could have them on batteries, because it make the room inviting, even if you're not in there dining.
I think that's so true. And I think an oversized bowl, wood or otherwise, especially if it's filled with fruit, but it can even be empty. That looks great in the center of the table. But also, if you have a tray, whatever kind of tray appeals to you, put that there. Maybe a stack of, I actually have on my table a silver tray with a stack of purple transferware dishes that are antique from France, of course, and then 2 silver candlesticks, and I think I have one other thing on there too. But, you can just kind of have a stack of dishes, or just some of your favorite pieces there. And if you put it on a tray, you can go with some smaller pieces. If you just have one thing, you're going to want something larger. Sometimes people that like antiques have maybe a dough bowl on there, which is a large wooden bowl, or kind of elongated. But, it needs to be sized, not too small. You want it kind of on the larger size, unless you have a grouping of things on a tray. But I think that's going to really make it look good. And then the other thing is, like you've been saying, Kelly, there's not usually a lot of fabric in this room. So you don't want all wood. So this is a great place to add some fabric, to do a table runner on the table when you're not using it. The other thing I like to do is to use an undersized tablecloth, so that it's going, or maybe it's just going the wrong way, so that the ends of my table are exposed and
That's
showing.
my favorite part. If I'm not doing a runner, that's what I do.
Me too. And it's kind of just a really updated, fun look, because if you have a tablecloth on that covers the whole table, that might look like you're getting ready to eat, or it's kind of more of an older look. So turn it the other way, expose the edge of the table, and then you've got a very updated, fresh look.
Jumping back to the bowl idea, I think that is just a fantastic tip. So picture you're doing this smaller tablecloth or scarf or stadium blanket or whatever you want to do. On the side, you're exposing a little table. You have a really nice oversized bowl. Now, this could be crystal or wooden, like a big dough bowl, or pottery, or even made out of rattan or wicker or something like that. A beautiful bowl, silver would be great.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you're saying, it would look fabulous empty. Maybe you put a candlestick on either end, something like that. But it's there. It's your decor hotspot, which I love talking about. And then in the summer, you fill it with lemons. In the fall, you fill it with baby pumpkins. In Christmas time, you fill it with pine cones or Christmas balls, and then, carry on, fill it in, whatever you love, right? The next time, maybe it's something for Valentine's Day or not. And then maybe Valentine's Day, you leave it empty because you don't have pink and red things. And you can just run through the whole year with one bowl. Super easy. Well, always looks good.
So you just reminded me, it just occurred to me, I have a very oversized bowl. It's really a punch bowl sized bowl.
Oh, that would be fun, because I bet a lot of people listening somewhere might have a punch bowl, or someone they know has a punch bowl.
But mine is actually ceramic, and it's a gray and white buffalo check bowl.
Ooh.
Wouldn't that be? But it's massive, is what I'm saying. I think that would be great. And it's got an underplate. I think I'm going to go put that on my dining room table when we finish. and put my velvet pumpkins in it, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, and we all know and are so envious of the number of velvet pumpkins you have.
You've got a bunch, too.
Oh, not like... I have 3. You have like 300. It's an embarrassment of riches is how many velvet pumpkins you have, but we don't have to dwell on that.
No, but apparently you haven't forgotten about it.
No, I haven't forgotten, because I look at that picture all the time. Every fall. So where are we at?
Well, I was just going to talk about lighting for a minute.
Oh, great. Yes, very important.
When you look in there, your view in your dining room is going to be table, chairs, artwork, or whatever's on that wall, and your light fixture. It might make more of a change than you think to change it out. I've included a light fixture similar to what I have in my dining room. It's the type, it's kind of a country French look, and it's got the wooden tassels on it and the wooden beads. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I love it.
So I found one that's really inexpensive, I think, for what it is, because these can go into the thousands of dollars. But this one was a good price. I think I found it on Overstock.
And you can get the very odd 12% off. What you do with Overstock, I don't get that, but okay. But if you go there and you look for something and then you're like, I'll just wait a little while, they'll send you an email with the 12% off. So you can play that game with them. If you have a light fixture that maybe has the little shades on them, and you're getting tired of it, just take the shades off.
That's true.
You don't have to have those, or jazz them up. Ballard
change them out. Yeah.
Change them out. Ballard has a great selection of those little shades in, sometimes cheetah print or palomino or zebra. Fun.
So maybe try the look of just taking them off. If you don't like that, then you can. The leopard print sounds amazing. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be great.
So I wanted to go back to the rug for a second too, because you were talking about the size of the rug, and I wanted to mention again. I mean, there's not a lot of fabric in this room typically, so this is a great place to add pattern, to add comfort and coziness with a rug. You can go with like a sisal or something kind of neutral, but I really like to use some pattern and color in there with whatever direction you're going. Even if you have kind of a neutral room, I think this is just kind of a nice way to introduce some color that's not too much in your face. It's kind of on the floor.
Yeah, I definitely think a rug in the dining room is a must. I didn't have one for a long time for exactly the reason you mentioned. I was like, God, I'm crawling under there picking up all kinds of stuff. I don't really want to be vacuuming it all the time or having to get it cleaned. But at some point, I got clued in on what a difference a rug makes. And I decided to go for it. And I got a pretty inexpensive rug, and it did last a long time. And sure, sometimes there are messes, but most of the time there aren't. And then your dining room looks really, really nice. So I'd go for it.
Yeah. And this is also a great place to add curtains. I'm not a big fan of curtains everywhere because I think I like the windows open where you can see out, and I don't like too much fussiness on the windows. But for a dining room, again, I feel like it calls for it a lot of times. So I think this is a great place to consider some curtains if you're interested, and they'll add some warmth and some coziness to the room.
Absolutely. Because think about it, there's not usually, unless you've got some upholstered dining chairs, and if you're worried about a rug, you're definitely going to be worried about upholstered dining chairs. There's probably not a lot of opportunities in anyone's dining room for fabrics, and you really need it in the room. It's just not going to feel really comfortable and welcoming without some sort of textures and fabrics. And a great tip is to choose durable fabrics. There's no reason why you can't choose a velvet that's a performance right now, or any other type of fabric that's a performance. Or even if you wanted to do sunbrella, you can really get some fabrics that are going to be with you for the long haul and perform well for you and your family, and you're not going to have to worry about them.
Yes, and back to the chairs for a second, because I wanted to mention that I did select some chairs that I thought were beautiful, and not a traditional chair, but more of a more casual, easygoing chair that you could have in your dining room that are rattan, and I'll include the link to the ones I found. So these I thought were really beautiful. It looks like they have a removable seat cushion, so you could cover these, and then if you got something on them, you could recover them, change them, wash them. I think that would be great. But they look very casual, but also very comfortable. And although the back is rattan, you could put a pillow back there. So I really like the idea of kind of mixing it up, and I love kind of making unexpected places kind of a little more formal, and formal places a little more casual. So I think it's fun to get something like this that's more laid back in your dining room.
That in and of itself, the chairs aside, was just such a great tip that you said. Because isn't that true? When you're making a spot that's the expectation is that it should be formal, and when you're adding a material like rattan or something like that, it just makes the room so much more interesting. And exactly, the flip is true as well. And you're doing something super casual, and then maybe you add in some, I don't know, sterling silver or something like that. It changes the whole thing. I love that, and I love rattan, so I'm going to check those out because I love adding rattan in wherever I can, especially since Anita and I live in places that are warm a lot of the year. It's nice to have materials like that mixed in with the darker or heavier woods.
Are you ready for the DTT defines?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, today I thought we would talk about a Mora clock and what that is.
Ooh, you love those.
I know, I love them, but I think other people do too.
Oh, you're not alone.
Right. So a Mora clock, it's a type of long case clock made in a Swedish town called Mora. So it's kind of like a grandfather clock, only it's curved. Usually they're painted white or gray, and they're unlike a grandfather clock that you might find that's an English piece or a French piece or a German piece. These are very curved, and they're usually painted lighter gray, and they sometimes have other designs painted on them, maybe some hand painting. They are very expensive if you get the real thing, but you can buy reproduction pieces. But anyway, they began the production of these in the late 18th century, and their reproductions are made today. Mine is reproduction because I wasn't willing to pay the many thousands of dollars that I was going to have to pay for the real thing.
And I wonder if you had the real thing, maybe the clock really wouldn't work, or you'd have to pay a lot more for the clock to be fixed. So yeah, maybe a reproduction is the way to go. Well,
there's a couple of people at Round Top that sell them, and they are in fine working condition.
I was trying to make you feel better about having a repro.
Oh, no. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it because I think it's all about kind of just making these decisions. I mean, you have a certain budget, and you're going to decide what I'm going to splurge on and what I'm not going to splurge on. And so I'm fine with that.
And not being an expert on these particular types of clock at all, but when I've seen the reproductions, they look really good.
Sometimes a reproduction is, you look at it and you go, no, I don't think so. but I like this one fine.
Because I think the simplicity of the lines, maybe too, it make it easier to reproduce it and have it look really good. Well, my crush is just a continuing crush. We got introduced to Cozy Earth products when they, I think, came to me first on my Instagram, and then they became sponsors of the show, the podcast, and they sent us the sheets. We love them, right, Anita? Absolutely love them.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So I just got to, they're so sweet. They're such a nice company. They just, out of the blue, said, hey, we want to send you a lounge outfit. I was like, yeah, baby. So he sent me this. Oh my gosh, the jogger, and then I got this crew neck. I hesitate to call it a sweatshirt because it doesn't feel like a sweatshirt. I mean, it's, you just feel so good on. It's that bamboo material. So I got the matching. Of course, I picked my favorite Joy's color, black.
Well, I have the black, the night shirt, and it is the softest thing. I mean, that's my favorite thing to sleep in.
Isn't it though?
Yes.
What's your crush?
Food, of course.
I love it. It's always so reliable. Yeah.
Well, I'm always on the lookout for something healthy but delicious. So this is an oat milk. It's a barista oat milk called Oatsome. And I really like this because it just doesn't have anything. Some of them have all these additives in it. I'll include a link where you can buy this on Amazon. But it's oat milk, organic oats, sunflower oil, and sea salt. And that's it.
So this sounds good.
Well, and this is their barista version. So we have an espresso machine at home, and so we make cappuccinos all the time. And this foams like real milk.
Oh, good to know.
So they have a plain version and then the barista version. But honestly, I prefer the barista version because the other version has other additives in it.
You're keeping us clean and healthy, organized, and all of that. Love it. Well, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We certainly enjoyed it. And remember, we are here to inspire you to create a beautiful home. Until next time. Want to talk to us? Well, we really want to talk to you. So let's schedule a design consult. Anita and I are here to give you individualized, actionable advice on how to create the beautiful home you want and deserve. It's so easy to schedule a design consult with us. Simply click the link in the show notes or head to decoratingtipsandtricks.com/consult. When we talk to you on the scheduled time, we will be ready with so many great tips, advice, and yes, tricks. So sign up today for a design consult. We can't wait to talk to you.